The situation has been extremely serious. The seriousness itself is reflected by the fact that in some of our most sensitive districts, there have been clashes between communities, and the effect of those clashes are that human lives have been lost, injuries have been caused, people have been thrown out of their houses and their normal habitats. You have 400,000 people or more living in the relief camps. And from the reports which have been coming in, the situation in the relief camps is certainly not an ideal one. More particularly because these camps had to be impromptu created. The government has now said that they will have a CBI inquiry into this matter. While we sympathize with all who've lost their lives and their families, those who've lost their livelihood, their houses, I would only urge the government not to treat this case as a case where a simple crime has been committed. Obviously, if people are guilty, they must be investigated and punished. From all statements of the government and the Honorable Home Minister which have been coming, if we miss out the real issue as to why this situation has taken place, even if we tomorrow succeed in sending these people back to their villages and their homes, giving some kind of a relief to them, there is not a lurking but almost a certain doubt and an apprehension in our minds that with the kind of situation which is existing in those areas, that these incidents are likely to be repeated. And I would therefore in his response urge the Honorable Home Minister, rather than consider it only as a law and order problem, that so many people have been uprooted, so many people have been arrested, so many people have been sent back, relief is being provided to so many people. That of course is the least that the government must do. The state government had completely failed. But please go into the root cause of why this problem is taking place. And if this problem gets repeated, the consequences not only on the state of Assam but on India as a nation, our national identity, our personality, even our geography are going to be severe. Sir, I don't want to take satisfaction by saying that my party had always said so. But then the least that can be said is this not a normal and a natural consequence of the change or an unnatural change in the demography that has taken place in those regions? Demography has an impact on the economy. You take away the land which belongs to the people who are in the normal habitat in those areas. You impact on their place of work, their agriculture, their resources. And all this is accompanied by social tensions. Those who have administered this country, those who framed our laws, our constitution, were conscious of this. We are conscious of the sensitivity of the certain areas. Our tribal areas, we know it's a natural habitat of some people who can go and buy land there and settle there. We are conscious of the sensitivities of those areas. My friend from Jammu and Kashmir yesterday was speaking very vociferously. They are proud of what they call the Kashmiriyat, and they want that to be preserved. I can understand his sentiment. We may disagree on many issues, but this sentiment I don't disagree with. Northeast, therefore, is a very sensitive region for India. The land connectivity between Northeast and the rest of the country is very narrow, what we call the chicken neck. Northeast was one of the provinces, which was one of the regions which was very badly affected because of India's partition. There was a lot of violence which took place on the western borders, where the country was partitioned. But Northeast moved some good 1200 to 1500 kilometers away by the creation of what we then called East Pakistan. And therefore, whether it is raw material or it is some food items, the traveling distance itself increased. And therefore, life was certainly not the most comfortable. It had different kinds of tribes, communities, people. And they were very sensitive to this. And this is one area where we really should not have had any political differences as to how to deal with it. So the Congress leadership at that stage, immediately on the eve of independence, and immediately upon independence, the Congress party in Assam was led by a legendary leader, Sri Gopinath Bordoloi, who is still very, very revered in that state. His name is taken with a lot of respect. He's a Bharat Ratna. What was his approach to this problem and what is your approach today? His approach was, and this is recorded, he wanted that personality of Northeast, particularly Assam, its cultural identity, its linguistic identity to be maintained. I was going through a resolution of the Assam Pradesh Congress Committee in 1945, immediately on the eve of independence. And the Pradesh Congress Committee said, unless the province of Assam is organized on basis of Assamese language and Assamese culture, the survival of Assamese nationality and culture will become impossible. The inclusion of Bengali-speaking Sylhet and Kachar and immigration and importation of lakhs of settlers on wastelands has been threatening to destroy the distinctiveness of Assam and has in practice caused many disorders in administration. Now this is not the AGP saying this. This is what the then Congress party said this. Lord Wavell wrote that Gopinath Bordoloi wrote to Sardar Patel in 1946, 18th February. Maulana Sahib seemed to come to the conclusion that the only alternative to the state of things is to separate the Bengali districts of Sylhet and portion of Kachar from Assam and join these with Bengal, a consummation to which the Assamese people are looking forward for the last 70 years. So even when you had the reorganization of states, the Congress party leadership at that time was fully conscious of the fact, and rightly so, that because of the sensitivities of Northeast, the cultural identity, the linguistic identity of the region has to be maintained. There's nothing wrong in that. Now this would obviously include people of various religions. And that time Assam had, besides the tribals, they had the majority community, the Hindus, the Muslims, the Christians. But in terms of the cultural identity of that region, they wanted it to be preserved. Sir, unfortunately, somewhere post-independence, the line which the Congress party took in Assam and which Sri Gopinath Bordoloi had always advocated was altered by subsequent leaders of their party. They probably realized that the ethnic Assamese, the cultural Assamese vote is going away, and therefore they were in search of an alternative vote. I don't want to repeat some of the slogans which they gave because that for the search of that alternative vote bank. And that search of an alternative vote bank, the Honorable Prime Minister is here. He represents the state of Assam for the last 21 years in this house. If you ask the right questions, you will get the right answer. It was that pursuit of the alternative vote bank which is really responsible as the root cause of the problem today. And for that you wanted a change in democracy. You had an open border. People would come and settle down. And once people came and settled down, there was no way of pushing them back. Bangladesh, earlier East Pakistan and Bangladesh, was not willing to take them back. Now this design, unconsciously, not consciously, was for a vote bank politics. But this overlapped with a design which some others had. And what was the design of others across the borders? So I was quite surprised while I was reading, Mr. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto wrote a book called Myths of Independence. And I'm just quoting a sentence from that book. This is when Bangladesh had not been created. He says, and I quote, "It would be wrong that Kashmir is the only dispute that divides India and Pakistan, though undoubtedly the most significant.